welcome. Today we're going to make some mini cinnamon scrolls with peanut butter. So it's peanut butter and cinnamon scrolls, and I'm making little mini ones because I'm having a party. So it'll be nice little sweet treats that can have with the rest of the food. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm heating up 1 cup of almond milk, or you can use the plant-based milk of your choice. And then I have here 3 tablespoons of vegan butter or margarine of your choice. So this is not a low-fat recipe, but because there'll be bite-sized little scrolls, you only need to have a few. So, and this is distributed through the whole lot. So we have this to the pan. Let it slowly melt in the milk, and then we will need to bring it down to about 110 degrees before we add the yeast, which will be the next step. So this is what I'm using, and I'm in Australia. We have a brand called Nuttalex, which is a very good plant-based margarine, and this is with coconut oil, and you can get one called Buttery now, which has got a butter flavour to it. I've also just recently found this. It's a coconut spread, but it's actually looks like butter and tastes like butter. Place it into a bowl, and we reduce the heat to about 110 degrees, and then we'll add some yeast to that. So I've got this thermometer here, so it's actually down to about just below 100, so it's definitely cool enough for the yeast. So we place that in the warm liquid, and we just let that sit for about 10 minutes. So this is the yeast mixture after 10 minutes. You can see how it's all activated now. And to that we have to add 1 tablespoon of sugar and 1/4 tablespoon of salt. Salt in there, we just give it a mix. Now the next step after that is to add the flour, and then we can leave it to rise. Now we need about 3 cups of flour. I've done a mixture of 3 different flours. In America you'll need all-purpose flour. Over here we call it plain flour, or that means it's just flour without the addition of baking powder or bicarb salt or anything like that. So the best way to find out if a flour is plain is to look at the ingredients, and if it's just got the 1 ingredient, like just wheat, then that's an all-purpose or a plain flour. So I'm using my 3 favourite companies. We've got 4 Leaf, and they do all organic flours. And they do stone grinding as well. And we've got Kyala Pure Foods. They're a similar company as well. They get all the organic grains, and they stone grind them into beautiful flours. And this other company here is United Organics, and this is a biodynamic flour. So like I say, you just look on the reverse. Like for example, this just says ingredients is wheat. That's stone ground wheat, of course, so that's an all-purpose or a plain flour. So we'll be just adding the flour to this, and then we'll put it outside to rise. So if you do like about half a cup at a time, it's probably the best way to do it. So what I have got here, this one here is actually a spelt flour. So I've mixed them up a little bit, and I've got this is 85% light flour, although it's still got a lot of the original grain intact. And this here is the whole stone ground wheaten flour. So if you're gluten intolerant, or you don't want the gluten in the wheat, then you're better off doing a gluten-free mix. Not sure how that will turn out, but you can always give it a go. But I find with the organic full grains, and a lot of these are ancient grains, it's normally a good strain or a heirloom type grain that they use, and they stone grind it and keep most of the stuff intact. So I don't think that is much of an issue with the gluten wise. So you can see now it's getting quite thick. And it has to be sticky, so I'm not sure. It has to be sticky when we need it, so I'm not sure that I'll need the full 3 cups of flour. Might just put a little bit more in there and see how we go. The rest I'll use on the kneading board. I must have lost a bit of the milk when I was heating it up. So maybe use about 2.5 cups of flour. Just gauge it. What we'll do now is just do it by hand and then we'll knead it. It has to be slightly sticky, you just give it a bit of a knead and then just turn it into a ball ready to rise. Here I've cleaned the bowl and oiled it with a bit of coconut oil, and what I'm going to do is sit the pastry in the bottom in there and then put it in a nice warm place to rise. So you can see how small it is, just sort of filling the bottom of the bowl, and we'll take it outside and allow it to rise. So I'm actually out in the garden in the sun, and what I'm going to do is just, I've got a little shelf here for my garden. I'm just going to drape the tea towel over the top, so flies tend to flock to it. And I'm going to tuck that in, and then I'll just leave this outside for an hour and then we'll come back and have a look. So there you are, sitting in the sun. Okay, this has been outside for over an hour now, and as you can see the sun's actually gone. So let's just have a look. You can see how it's doubled in size in there. Now it's ready to make the cinnamon and peanut butter scrolls. Okay, so here we have our dough. I'm just going to give it another little bit of a knead. But because I'm making mini ones, I'm going to do it in little batches. This is something I haven't done at this point. I've only made the big ones. So you make it sort of a bit of a rectangle shape, and then we will then roll it out that way. So make this nice and long, because what we will do, we will roll this way and then we'll cut them this way. Of course you can make them any shape or size you wish, but it's nice to have it looking quite traditional. Of course if you like you can trim them off and just put this with the next batch so we get more even shape. Okay, so what I have here, I have coconut sugar, and I've added some cinnamon and some nutmeg to that. And I've also got, you can use any nut butter. This is actually peanut and coconut butter. So it's got the nice coconut oil in there as well. And then I'm going to add some sultanas. I've got some sultanas and I've got some chopped up walnuts. Brain food, okay, very good for you. So what we need to do is just spread a little bit of the nut butter onto the pastry. And you can use melted vegan butter for this if you like. I think this will give it a nice twist to the conventional type of cinnamon scroll. Okay, then sprinkle the sugar cinnamon mix. Add some sultanas. Just space them out a little bit. A few in here. And we add the walnuts. Okay, and then it is rolled up this direction. So I just lift up one side. And we just roll it up the best way we know how. Just pat them down slightly. I need a sharp knife. I'm going to do mine probably about maybe 1 inch. or 2.5 centimeters. And when you get close to the end, cut the end off. Just, you can still bake that, and that can be your testing piece. Just cut the last piece in half. Okay, and then these little babies are going to bake this way up. Okay, so I just need to finish doing the rest of them, and then we actually need to let them sit, and they need to rise again before we put them in the oven. We've got them all rolled up now, all my little mini ones. So they need to be put in a warm place for about an hour and let that rise before we put them in the oven. And you can see some of the early ones I've made are actually rising already. So I just need to put them to one side, and we'll come back when they're risen. Okay, we can now see that these have increased in size. I'm just going to put these now in the baking dish, and we can put them in the oven. Okay, we now have our mini cinnamon peanut butter scrolls in the oven tray, and we put that in the oven, and it will take about 25 to 30 minutes on about 180 Celsius, or around about the 350, 375 mark in Fahrenheit. Just keep your eye on them and make sure that they don't burn. Okay, I've just taken these out of the oven. They were on in there for 20 minutes, and that's probably because they're smaller than normal. So just keep your eye on them. So I will now put them to cool down, and then we'll put a little bit of icing on there to finish them off. So here we are, I've got them on the cooling rack. So I'll just leave them on here to cool down, and then we'll do the icing. So I've just put them on a plate now, and we're ready to ice them. Okay, so what I've got here, I've mixed some powdered sugar or icing sugar mixture with a plant-based milk, or in this instance I use soy milk, and I've got some leftover sugar and cinnamon mix. So what I'm going to do is apply the icing and then sprinkle some more of the cinnamon sugar on there. So all you need to do is get a spoon and just slowly work it over the scrolls. You might even call this a type of a glaze. The finished product. Looks delicious.